Everyone, I'm going to share my screen here. So let me know if you see what I am presenting to you, wherever it went. Apparently it's now disappeared, even though it is here. I'm unclear as to why that. It's open. I don't understand. Let's try this. Can you see the Summit Session Series 1 Renewables and Design thing?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Okay, then I will start this bad boy and we will get things going here. Okay, so today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different and talking to you guys about kind of the process that we go through with architects and new construction builds. I feel like I've hammered in the traditional you own a home kind of thing long enough, and we're going to change it up a little bit. So if you have GC contacts or you know someone who's building a house, this is a very useful information in terms of kind of how to look at renewable energy for their home. So why design for renewable energy? So reasonings, there's environmental reasons, right? There's climate change. You can be less dependent on all of the fossil fuels in the world. There's actual state and federal regulations at this point. So right now in California, if you're building a new home, you have to install a renewable energy source as solar to a certain degree, right? So there's a Title 24 requirement that's based on an algorithm that we'll see here in a minute and what that means for you. So again, environmental impacts, there's energy cost savings, reduced dependency upon PG&E and utilities, and then for storage purposes, there's backup power as well. So the major types of renewable energy that we have here and storage. So solar PV is number one, the ground mount option. So putting panels on the ground and not on the roof, which is in this case, the photo is a little misleading. But the pros, you can be larger, right? You have typically a much larger amount of space that you can work off of. It's easier to orientate the system due south with the right pitch, so you get the most efficiency out of the system. And then a lot of times, right, there's that aesthetic aspect of there's less of a visual impact on the actual home, depending on the client and the area. Cons, it's a higher installation cost because we actually have to build the structure and put things into the ground in order to build that and have something to put the panels on. Also, there's typically more wire costs because, again, we're further away from the house at that point. Increased maintenance cost, I don't know about that one. It was listed on a site that I was looking at, but I would beg to differ that they're pretty on par, whether it's on the ground or on the roof. And then space and terrain difficulties. Again, ground mounts, you've got to deal with rocks that's underground that you may not be able to see or things of that nature as well. So there's typically some drawbacks there. Roof mounts pros, the installation is easier because the structure is already there, and the kind of the way that we install things is a little bit more straightforward. A lower cost and less impact to the overall property space. Like if you want to run a vineyard, you're not taking up ground space in order to do that. Where with a ground mount, another pro is that if you have, let's say, animals, you can actually elevate the structure and then you have a shaded area for the animals to stay under. So other cons, limited system capacity. You can only basically get as much solar as you can fit on the roof. So you might need 15 kilowatts of power, but you can only get 5 because of the way that your roof faces or orients and just the space in general. So efficiency, I've got a helper who's decided to join me. Layout, so there's certain things that you got to avoid on the roof as well. So you got setback requirements for fire codes that you have to deal with that allows you to do sometimes a smaller install. And there's a lot of other penetration points that you've got to avoid, like venting and things of that nature as well. And for those people that don't like the way solar panels look, they think it doesn't look nice on your roof. I do though. So here's a couple of examples of projects that we did. Ground mount on the left, roof mount on the right. Obviously, depending on the house and the type of roof and things like that, this is all going to look different. But just a couple of brief examples there. There's a big ground mount in the background that we did out in Napa Valley. And then also going to talk a little bit about off-grid systems, because we can also manage a completely off-grid, not connected to PG&E in any way, shape, or form for you or your clients as well. So pros: complete energy independence. You're not using power from PG&E or paying them a dime, which is great. Really nice for remote locations. So depending on where you're building the house, or we've done a lot of hunting cabins as well, so that they don't have to worry about running a loud generator while they're out trying to do things of that nature. And then it's the most energy conscious choice. Again, you're not using fossil fuels to run this solar and battery storage system. Cons: it gets a little limited for larger homes. You know, if you've got a 5,000 square foot home and you have a pool and an air conditioner and all this heavy equipment that you want to have there and run, it becomes a little cumbersome to try to do that. It becomes a very large, very costly system, which runs into high installation cost. And then typically additional equipment that's needed, obviously, again, batteries to store that power so you can use it at night or during cloudy or kind of rainy type of days. And in some cases, depending on how things go, you may want to, and in most cases, you probably do want to add in a backup generator just in case, because there's always that possibility that there's not enough sun out for multiple days to run your home and recharge the system. So some battery systems and energy storage here. So the major types are lithium and lead acid. Lead acid is still really usable technology, especially in certain applications like kind of hunting cabins or things of that nature. There are two types of lithium. There's NMC, which is your nickel, manganese, cobalt, which is like the Tesla and a lot of systems like that use. And then there is the lithium iron phosphate chemistry as well, which is overall a safer, less thermal flashpoint kind of sensitive material. So a lot of people like to go that LFP way, which is what Enphase, one of the major systems that we utilize is, and that's what the photo is in the background there on the wall. There are three different types of modes for batteries. You've got backup, which means power goes out, we will provide you power. You've got self-consumption, which basically means that, basically means that you're going to use solar energy for as long as you can throughout the daytime. And then as soon as the sun goes down and there's no more solar being created, you then switch over to batteries for the loads that we are protecting and backing up, and the batteries will run for as long as possible till either the sun comes up the next day or you hit your backup percentage that you want to maintain at all times. And then time of use basically means we set it up to push power out of the battery system during the highest cost time frames possible to try to help your solar system push more power back into the grid at a higher advantageous time for you as the homeowner to get credit on your account. And then size, some AHJs. Yep, now I got my timer. Thank you, Reggie. Limited based on AHJ and fire marshal. So currently, if it's a residential property, we can only do up to 80 kilowatts of storage per kind of system. There's some ways around that in terms of having different connection points on the property in different locations, but it gets a little tricky and again, a little costly. So pros to battery system: better use of your renewable energy. It lowers your utility bills if you can use it appropriately, whether it's self-consumption or time of use. Again, less dependent on the grid, provides quiet power backup, so it's not a loud generator, and very low maintenance for the most part. Set it and forget it. Cons: it does have a higher initial cost, although you do get the tax credit, and then it also saves you money over time. So if you look at a 10-year spread between generator and battery, the battery actually ends up costing you less money than the generator did initially over about a 9 to 10 year period of time. And then increased system capacity of your overall solar and storage. And the life expectancy is typically somewhere between 10 to 12 years or 10, 15 years for good usable storage capacity. I've got about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to end it there. If anybody has a brief question, maybe I'll finish it off next time.
Great. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Daniel, for your time.